Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Dill, Brian Kelly, the LSU Tigers take the stand during SEC Media Day. Look, are we going to learn a ton about this program during Media Day? No, probably not. There are some storylines coming out that I think are very interesting for LSU fans heading into 2025. And Dill, I think the biggest storyline that I took away from what I heard Brian Kelly talk about was the development of Harold Perkins and how there's a very strong emphasis being placed on getting him in the right spot and letting him kind of get back to what this kid was as a true freshman in the SEC a couple of years ago. Because I think it's fair to say, look, Harold Perkins, he hasn't been a non-factor, but he hasn't really been the factor that we thought he was going to be following his freshman campaign. This might be a little hyperbolic, but I'm looking at it and saying that this is one of the biggest storylines in the SEC. I mean, you look at LSU, like contender for an SEC championship, ain't no doubt about that. Primarily, the discussion is can they take the step on the defensive side of the football deal? I can't think of any storyline more important for LSU than getting Harold Perkins to be the difference maker that we know and have seen this kid be in the past. Want to talk about the conversation that Brian Kelly got into in terms of what went wrong with Harold Perkins and why they're confident that they got it going in the right direction in terms of how they're going to use him. Couple of position flex conversations we want to get into as well. Fired up to get into it. It's been a team that we've had a blast talking about all offseason long, a team that we are believers in heading into 2025. Before we get into it, as always, to the LSU fans, let it fly in the comment section. I'll start with this. Look, LSU inherently is not going to win Media Day. Let's just say it how it is. Like, Brian Kelly's not the most charismatic in front of the mic. I think he sometimes thinks he's really charismatic. He ain't damn good football coach, not necessarily going to win Media Day. But there are some things to learn. Would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. The support in the offseason been amazing. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, plan for Harold Perkins. You know, we both listened to the interview. I'll give you the tee box here. What excites you the most about Harold Perkins in the role he's going to play rolling into 2025 here?
And it's going to be interesting because, again, outside linebacker, and that's kind of what Brian Kelly insinuated he's going back to. That could mean a lot of different things, I feel like, in a given defense. But at least to me, it does sound like they're going to get him near the ball again. And that is where, in my opinion, he needs to be, because when he was doing that as a true freshman, he was one of the better college football players, not just at LSU, but in all the country.
Yeah, dude, I think there will be, I don't want to use the word nerds, but there are going to be some nerds that get into the semantics of the position he plays, whether it's the star, whether it's the Sam. I don't care as long as he's doing the things we want to see him do. Primarily rush the passer off the edge and trying to fit him into that off-ball linebacker spot, especially going back to 2023. You could tell, look, would Harold Perkins be a very good off-ball linebacker? Yeah, he'd probably be pretty dang solid, right? Harold Perkins is a guy that's going to figure it out pretty much wherever you put him on the football field. Does that give Harold Perkins the ability to have the biggest fingerprint on the football game? No, it doesn't. And I think what Brian Kelly was talking about is, hey, moving him towards the outside in these alignments. You know, we know he has the athleticism to drop back in coverage and be a guy that can sit back and take up a lot of space in zone. He can run with just about anybody on the football field, but also disguising where he's coming from in these pass rush situations, because that's inherently what you need to get him back to doing. Like being that quarterback spy, ripping off the edge. Like, tackles can't deal with this kid's juice coming off the edge. The more you can get him involved in the pass rush, especially on those second and third down situations, the better. And I think going into year 2 with Blake Baker, I think Blake Baker probably has a better idea of, hey, how do we want to use Harold Perkins to maximize his ability on this defense?
And it's not just in the pass rush, but what he can do in the run game too, in terms of being able to come off the edge and play on the backside and get in gaps. Because again, you want to use his traits, and that is being wildly explosive and really having good instincts for finding the ball in the box. Like, again, it just gets back to, like, can they get him back to what he was doing? Like, that Alabama game or that Arkansas game are two games that will stick into my brain forever in terms of what the best version of Harold Perkins was. And it was chasing down quarterbacks and creating fumbles in doing those things that, again, if they get him back to that, you have such a high impact difference maker. You got guys who can play linebacker in
Well,
space.
that's the thing. I mean, you have Harold Perkins and Whit Weeks have the opportunity to be the best linebacker duo that you see in the country, and I don't even know if it's particularly close. And because you have one of the best off-ball linebackers in the country in Whit Weeks, maybe that allows you to be a little bit more comfortable letting the leash off Harold Perkins and doing some different things with him. I'm okay with it being a positionless player on the football field where you're getting him involved in a lot of different ways. But I think Brian Kelly was talking about, hey, we played him as an off-ball linebacker in 2023, kind of playing head on. Look, can he do it? Yeah. Is that where he's best fit? No. That is, if you are an LSU fan, that is, to me, one of the biggest storylines for this football team going into 2025. And to hear that, hey, Brian Kelly kind of backtracked, said, we probably made a mistake in 2023, and we are going to fix that going into 2025. That should fire up a lot of LSU fans. Still, the second biggest conversation for this LSU defense is the dudes they have in the back end. Let's just be real about it. Brian Kelly talked about this during media days too. Yes, we let go our whole defensive coaching staff after the 2023 season. Rightfully so. It was a disaster. But he also said in the same breath, it's not like the defensive coaching staff were bad coaches in 2023. It was on me. Like, I just didn't give them the players to thrive in the SEC. I thought you saw a little bit of that still in 2024, especially in the back end where it's like we're just not big enough, not fast enough, not good enough to deal with some of the best wide receiver rooms in the country going into 2025. The conversation has gone from we don't have enough players we trust to play at an SEC level in 2024 to how can we get all of these guys on the football field that we want to get on. The conversation is, hey, maybe Mansour Delane plays a little bit of safety to get a guy like DJ Pickett or get a guy like Jakeem Jackson on the football field. It is a deep, versatile unit. It is impossible for me to envision an LSU defense that in the back end doesn't get significantly better because you have the dudes going into 2025.
And that's where it gets exciting because even just kind of trying to read the tea leaves of what Brian Kelly was talking about today at his press conference. I mean, when he talked about Mansour Delane, it sounded like they weren't 100% sure which spot he was going to be at. And that, to me, I look at that and I just hear, oh, so DJ Pickett or Jakeem Jackson have put it together. Jakeem Jackson is a guy who from Florida, like obviously so talented, never played particularly great football for Florida, but you knew he had something in him. DJ Pickett, obviously just a unicorn of an athlete. If you have at least one of those guys kind of firing to the point where you feel good about having Mansour Delane kind of kick back into that safety rotation, I think you love the idea of what you have at the cornerback spot. You haven't been able to say that in years.
that storyline on Mansour Delane, and look, do we know if that's going to happen? I don't know, because there's a really large sample size of Mansour Delane being a really, really good cornerback. That tells you about how they feel about DJ Pickett and how they feel about Jakeem Jackson. If we are monkeying around with what I think is probably their best cornerback on the football field right now, Mansour Delane, we're monkeying around moving him to safety because we want to get a guy like DJ Pickett on the football field. Look, buy your DJ Pickett stock, because that's telling you something about how LSU views a Jakeem Jackson or DJ Pickett.
And if we're being realistic, I think if you look at maybe the pure best five on this rock, it probably has Tamarcus Cooley at the nickel spot and maybe someone else.
I agree.
Is Tamarcus Cooley, that to me is where when they took him out of the portal, I thought he was really kind of built to play that nickel role kind of in this LSU defense. So if they think that DJ Pickett or Jakeem can be that other corner next to Stans, that is probably your best five, especially if Mansour Delane. And we haven't really seen him play safety because he was a pure corner at Virginia Tech. But again, a guy with really good ball skills and certainly had traits that I think would be able to translate to safety. I think that probably is your best five because I don't know that you love Jordan Gilbert and Deshaun Spears necessarily.
You don't. Let's just be quite frank about it. I don't think you do. Like that. Those aren't national championship caliber guys, at least in my opinion.
I'm not ready. Spears.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
Potentially something there, but what you got from him last year was not. Was not national championship.
I probably would have just put in Jordan Gilbert. Deshaun Spears, that was a ricochet shot. He's a young kid. We'll see what we get out of him over the next couple of years. I guess to sum up the conversation, it's just good problems across the board. We finally have the guys on defense. Now we just got to figure out what the best recipe is, which is just not where LSU was the last couple of years, where we're just like cobbling this thing together and hoping for the best. Go into the offense real quick, and I don't think we need to spend that much time on the offensive side of the football, Dill. Something caught my eye, and it's, I get this depth chart right here. Speed. I think it was in Dill. Here's like a little cheat code for me during SEC, not just SEC media days, but media days in general. It's like, look, how much are you going to learn from these head coaches getting up there and giving you coach speak? I don't know. When the players take the mic, that's when you start to learn, because they're just going to say it how it is, right? One, Chris Hilton Jr. going to media days fires me up.
Huge.
Like that. Does that kind of tell you what they think he might be in 2025? Yeah, sure.
Because as much as we like to talk about the transfer guys at wideout, like Chris Hilton Jr. might be the most talented wide receiver league in terms of his blend of speed, size, the ability to track the ball down the field, and when he's on, play at a really high level. Him going to media days kind of says that he's doing the right things for this LSU program now. And like, again, if they get a really good season out of him and Barry Brown, and I don't want to leave out Aaron Anderson because he might be the most slept on wide receiver in the conference. That's probably that's the best wide receiver core in the country, in my mind.
In the country. I don't necessarily disagree, Dill. I can tell you dang right it's the fastest. I mean, Chris Hilton got up there and said, we got, 4 guys in the room that clocked 23 miles per hour in off-season workouts. That was Chris Hilton Jr., which I didn't know he cooked like that. Barry Brown, I wasn't surprised. Jelani Watkins, I certainly wasn't surprised. Dill, Xavier Thomas, Aaron Anderson wasn't even included in that list. And I know he can run with anybody in the country. Not to mention you got a running back in Caden Durham, who also is probably clocking 23 miles per hour as well. This offense absolutely burns, and speed kills. Then you look at Joe Sloan and say, hey, what is Joe Sloan's calling card as an offensive coordinator? It's getting my speed in space. There's alignment with this football team. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, what does LSU want to do on offense? They want to get the football to their playmakers in space. Well, gosh darn it, you have a ton of guys that are super fast and super dynamic with the football in their hands. The players, the personnel on both sides of the football fit what the coaching staffs want to do on both sides of the football.
And I think the big thing is you have the deep threats that probably didn't quite emerge last year with Chris Hilton being not being able to play at that level. So again, you kind of had the guys who could work underneath and be dynamic with the ball in their hands. Now you do open that back up. Barry Brown, he's maybe not like, I mean, he can get downfield vertically. Chris Hilton Jr., again, when he's on, and like you go to that Baylor game and see what he can do. He certainly can be that guy. So I think it's a much more well-rounded wide receiver room probably LSU right now. And again, like the speed, it feels like it's been there for a while for them, but you got to really.
And they got a quarterback that can put it all together. And this is kind of my take on Garrett Nussmeier is he ain't going to be a Cam Newton. And what I mean by that is he's not going to be a quarterback that is necessarily the engine of the offense, if you know what I mean. Like, look, Lenore Sellers he's the engine for South Carolina's offense. DJ Lagway probably going to be the engine for Florida's offense. I think Garrett Nussmeier probably has that engine quality in him. I don't know if that's necessarily his best part of his game. His best part of the game is, hey, build me a Ferrari of an offense. I'm going to come and I'm going to whip it. You know, I'm going to drive that car. And I think Garrett Nussmeier is in a perfect spot. Dill, here's the big kicker. I mean, as we get into fall camp, like what's the biggest storyline? It's just monitoring, you know, what's this offensive line look? And I've had the same take as I had going into spring practice. Look, is the national media going to make a really big deal about the offensive line? 100%. When you lose 4 NFL draft picks, the national media going to talk. They've recruited this position so well. They've coached this position. They've developed this position just about as good, if not as good, as anybody in the country. It's hard to me to just look at this offensive line, assume it ain't going to be good. And so we're going to kind of figure out what the puzzle looks like. And you want to get it. Look, you don't have time to figure it out there in the first couple of weeks. You don't play cupcakes. You go on the road to Clemson. So it's important for them to figure out their best starting 5 in fall camp because you're not going to have time to change it on the fly. But I got there's a lot of versatility. There's a lot of talent. It's headlined by an elite offensive line coach. If this offensive line comes together, Dill, like what's stopping this team from winning a national championship in 2025? Not much.
You're going to have championship offense again. Like the defense guys got to come together. But it is the first time you've had the talent in the room to really make it happen. So
I guess that's the other storyline. Sorry to cut you off. Is does the defense, does the sum of the parts, I'm not going to say that right. Does the individual talent, can that equal a good performance on defense? I don't think I got that saying right.
Greater than the.
Well, yeah, you tried to help me. You can't help me.
Smart enough.
So what I'm trying to say here is you got a lot of new pieces on defense. I think this is the most talented LSU defense that we have seen, definitely since Brian Kelly's been there. Can it come together with all the new faces? I think they got one of the best DCs in the game to make that happen. We'll sign it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. Not a ton of storylines coming out of Media Day, but some intriguing talking points that we can get into. Hey, fall camp, fire the boys up. We a couple weeks away. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.